Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a great day so far and welcome to today's video, which has been a very highly requested next episode of You Do Not Need That. So without further ado, let's get started. So if you are new here, if this is your first episode of my You Do Not Need That series, these videos are specifically created for people who are trying to cut back on their makeup spending. If you're trying to do a no buy or a low buy, or you're just trying to avoid all of the hype with makeup releases and not buy all of the stuff, then these videos are especially created for you. So you may notice that it's been a little while since I did one of these videos, and the reason being that every time I do a You Don't Need That video, I get a lot of people calling me a hypocrite and confused with why I own some of the items that I'm talking about in these videos. But here's the thing, these videos are not for me. I am a YouTuber, I'm a beauty creator, and obviously I purchase makeup that I wouldn't necessarily recommend that you do, and I certainly would never tell you that you need to buy. So these videos are not for me. I'm not really the target, or I'm definitely not the target audience for these videos. These videos are really created as like a buffer to all of the buy videos that we typically see here on YouTube. So if you're trying to cut back and you're finding things really tempting, that's who these videos are for. So yes, I do purchase and I do review some, if not sometimes even all of the products that I talk about in these videos. However, by no means whatsoever does that mean that you have to, that you need to, or that you should be encouraged to buy them, especially if you are trying to save money, cut back on makeup spending, or you just have everything you need and you want to put your money to another use. So hopefully that clears that up. But yeah, these videos are not for me, they are for you. But enough about that. This is the worst possible time of year for anyone trying to not spend money on makeup. As you've seen, releases are dropping like hot cakes. They are everywhere. They're willy-nilly about the place. They are just spewing holiday releases. Since the month of August have been arriving, just constant stream of new releases. Everything is holiday, everything is sparkly and shiny and embossed and very tempting. So this video is needed probably more than ever this time of year. A lot of these releases are incredibly tempting. I'm going to do my best to tell you why we don't need them. Okay, we can live without them. Let's get started with the Pat McGrath Holiday collection. It's like she whacked us in the face with she really threw every last thing, every last tactic, strategy, temptation, all in one ginormous collection. Like if you bought all of this, then, you know, that's a down payment on a house. This is a large collection. Okay, I'm going to talk you through the most tempting items in this collection and why really you don't need any of them. Let's start off with the large palette, the Mothership Mega. This is a very colourful palette, okay? So if you are not really into colour, colourful makeup looks, bright neon eyeshadow looks on a regular basis, don't even cross your mind. Don't even think another thought about it. Just let it slide. You aren't going to use this very much. You'll use it a few times because it's Pat McGrath and you got it for holiday, and then it's going in your drawer, like all the other colourful palettes that you bought because you thought you'd give colour a try, but it's just not you. I am that person. And that's why I passed on this. However, if you are super into colour, then you already have lots of colourful palettes, no? So really nobody needs this palette. If you're super into colour, there's nothing groundbreaking in here, okay? There's like a blue, a green, and a couple of purples. Otherwise, it's like a pretty pink palette, which we've already got from Pat McGrath, for sure. And if you are like not really into colour, then half the palette isn't going to get used. Either way, I think people get tricked into thinking this is really good value because it's a lower price point and a lot more shadows than her motherships. However, there's only like a set number of people who are going to get a lot of use out of this. I feel like this is like a flash in the pan, a one-hit wonder. You're going to use it a handful of times, and then, you know, it's not free. It might be less than a mothership, but it's still, you know, £70 English. Now, another incredibly tempting product in this collection that nobody needs are these blush palettes. These, when I first saw the pic, can't even speak, that's how excited I've got. When I first saw the pictures of these palettes, I thought all of our prayers have been answered. We've been asking, or I've been asking, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I have been begging for the Bridgerton palette, you know, with the blushes and the highlight in the insane like giant box in like normal flat packaging. That's what I want from Pat McGrath. The formula in those blushes is Chef's Kiss. This, I thought, oh my God, this is it. This is what we've been asking for. But it isn't, you know, it's not what we asked for. This is almost all repeat shades in both of these blush palettes. There are only a couple of new blush shades in the entire two palettes. And also they are in her original blush formula, not the Bridgerton baked blush formula. So not as exciting to me, at least. So here's the thing, not one person needs these. Because if you already own a load of blushes from Pat McGrath, then you've got literally 90% of what is on offer in these blush palettes. If you don't own any blushes from Pat McGrath, I ask you this, why do you want these when you didn't want the singles? Because they're in a palette with like some, here's the thing, here's the real tea, okay? Blush and face palettes have extra like buyability about them. When you look at a blush palette that's in gorgeous packaging and it's lots of blushes in one place versus like one single in black packaging of one colour, much less exciting. Like, show me a blush and a face palette. For a lot of people, that's like the ultimate eye-catching, like sexy makeup item. We see a blush palette, a face palette, and it's always more exciting than like a normal cheek product, isn't it? Usually they have their super glitzy over the top packaging that draws us in as well, but I think it's just the blushes all in one place. Very colourful, very pretty, very aesthetically pleasing. However, if you didn't want these blushes in singles, why are you suddenly really excited to buy them in a palette, I wonder? Just because they're in a palette. These are the existing blushes pretty much. Even the new shades are nothing new that we haven't seen before or that aren't very, very similar to existing blushes from Pat McGrath. You definitely don't need these. Also, if you desperately still want these and you don't own Pat McGrath blushes, you've always wanted to try them, these, I promise you, are going to be vastly reduced in the next few months. I'm 100% certain that these will be reduced, just like last year's holiday collection was. And just like the Bridgerton collections were. Also, you do not need to pay full price for these. I'm just saying that. You can definitely put these on your Christmas list and ask, you know, your partner, your mum, your dad, your sister to buy one for you for Christmas. Just saying. Now, as far as the £5 palettes, these are a much lower price point. So again, there's temptation to say they're basically free. You know, it's only a £5 and they're a very good price point, which they are. However, these are extremely dupeable. I beg you to look me in my eyes and tell me and promise me, don't you lie to me. Don't you lie to me. We don't lie to each other here. Okay, we're very honest. Look me in my eyes and tell me you don't have these colour stories in your existing collection. You can't do it, all right? We all already have a million of these shadows in our collection. We've also, if you have Pat McGrath palettes, you've even got these colours from Pat McGrath herself, okay? You've definitely got them from Natasha Denona. You've probably got them from Charlotte Tilbury. Don't talk yourself into purchases just because they're not £100, because those £20, £30 purchases very quickly add up to £100. I don't know if you've noticed. Okay, so moving on. I told you we were going to be doing tempting products. I told you we're going to make it hard for me today. We're going to be talking about all the most tempting holiday releases there are, and probably right at the top of that list for a lot of people, myself included, are these Charlotte Tilbury. Can't even, again, words fail me, quite literally. These Charlotte Tilbury blush and highlight palettes for holiday. Again, the brand has thrown everything, all of the tricks, all of the marketing tactics are in here, okay? It's very aesthetically pleasing. It's got the pretty patterns. It's got the shiny gold reflective packaging. It's got the beautiful external pearlescent, very festive external packaging. Everything about this is luring and sucking us right in to buy it. But hold up. What is this really? This really is a peachy blush and a reddish blush and a couple of Charlotte Tilbury highlights. You're telling me you don't already have a couple of peachy blushes and a couple of highlights? You're telling me if any of these products were in singles without the pretty pattern and not in a face palette component, you would still be just as excited about these? I don't know that anybody would. Just take this out as a peachy blush. Any of these Charlotte Tilbury highlights, they're all very, very similar, beautiful highlights, but if you've got one, you've got them all. Will you even use this one? Is my question. If you have a light medium to medium skin tone, will you even use this one? So then you're essentially buying a peachy blush and a couple of highlights. Again, you definitely already have those. You know that. I don't need to tell you that. The thing about these products is that on their own, individually, when you look at what is actually in here and actually on offer, it's far less desirable when you just see the palette and it's all very exciting and beautiful and festive and pretty and holiday and sparkly and your eyes are just like blinded by all of the things. But it's actually just really a peachy blush and a couple of highlights. So is that worth going into depth for? I beg you to ask yourself. These are very expensive, and if you're trying to cut back, trying to save money, especially going into holiday season, these again will be reduced. I'm sure they'll get reduced. Already we've seen, Space NK doing their 30% off or their £30 off, £100 spend, whatever that deal is. That's going to be coming back soon, I'm sure. We've got the Sephora sale coming up. You definitely don't need to pay full price for these. Again, is there somebody that you could put this on your Christmas list for? Because rather their money than ours, Okay, also from Charlotte Tilbury, let's talk about these pop shadows. Now, this is, what shade is this? This is the Diamond Eyes. You definitely don't need this. If you watch my review, these are very incredibly expensive single eyeshadows. This one particularly is just like a champagne shimmer eyeshadow for like £24. 3 of these and you can get this. So again, don't be fooled by, it's a single eyeshadow. It's a very expensive single eyeshadow. And like I said, 2 of those gets you like a Huda eyeshadow palette, or even a Natasha Denona midi size. So do you want one eyeshadow that is probably already exists numerous times in your collection, or would you rather skip those and wait for a midi palette from Natasha Denona? There's definitely more exciting things than these. Again, they've thrown everything at it with the little jewels on the gorgeous shiny packaging, and they're very pretty. Don't get me wrong, these are beautiful eyeshadows, but they are a single eyeshadow at the end of the day. Do you use a lot of single eyeshadows? If you do you honestly not have this? You don't have this. Don't believe you. Stop lying. We've already talked about that. I won't have it. Next, let's talk about the ABH Rose Metals eyeshadow palette. ABH definitely made a bit of a comeback this year. I feel like they lost their way a lot over the last couple of years. This year they came back with a great eyeshadow palette that I really, really liked. And then they came out with this one that is almost exactly the same. There is absolutely nothing in here that we don't all already have numerous times over. I feel like we might get slightly carried away by the resurgence of the brand because we're all really rooting for them to make a comeback, or I am. I'd like to see them make a comeback. But these eyeshadow palettes are really expensive, and they are, a really quite repetitive, boring, we've already seen this a million times eyeshadow palette. I don't know that anyone on this planet actually needs this eyeshadow palette. You don't already have 10 of these. This is the most easy to pass palette I've ever seen. I didn't even consider looking at it because I felt like it was exactly the same as their previous release. And we don't want to support laziness, okay? We want ABH to do well. We want them to make a comeback, but not at the cost of our wallets and our hard-earned money. We want to keep as much of that as possible to ourselves. You're going to have to do better than this to take my money from me, because this is very boring. I've seen it a million times. It literally looks almost exactly like the Kali Bible palette as well. This is definitely a very done eyeshadow palette that we already own, and nobody needs another one of them. So you don't even need to think this is easy. No one is getting tempted by this. Are you? Are you? You don't need to be. Let it go. There's better coming. There's more coming, and better than this, for sure. I feel like if you buy this, you'll regret it in about a month's time when something far more exciting comes along. Next, let's talk about another product that I myself have been tempting you with a lot, I think, probably on my channel, because I'm a big fan of these, and it's the Gucci blushes. Very, very tempting because everybody loves them. Everybody's been saying how beautiful and wonderful and gorgeous they are. Here's the thing, very expensive blushes, very expensive. Here's the second thing, permanent. Permanent, say it with me. We don't go broke for permanent products. Why would we? Why? There's nothing wrong, by the way, with treating yourself with makeup that you love and you really like, whether or not you need it. If you really want something and you think you're going to get a lot of joy out of it, isn't that why we're all here? But what you don't want to do is go broke for that joy, because being broke and getting into debt and having 25 Klarna letters pile up, which is something I've horrified by on TikTok recently, that doesn't give me joy. That gives me fear and dread and horror. So there's a balance, is what I'm saying. These are not going to like sell out, be discontinued anytime soon. Okay, you can wait for sale. You can wait until you can afford it easily and treat yourself guilt-free. You don't need to panic buy these. They're a permanent blush. And yes, again, they are pretty blushes. They are beautiful, nice blushes. They are extremely expensive and none of the colours are groundbreaking. This is my favourite one. Let's be honest, it's a nice, neutral, easygoing blush. Is it a blush you don't have something similar of? No. Is it going to sell out so you must buy it now even though you're already in the red for the month? Definitely not. This is going to be around, relax, take your time, wait for a sale, wait till it's easy to buy, guilt-free, and enjoy it without the stress, I beg you. Next up, let's talk about this Huda Beauty Empowered palette. This is the eyeshadow I have on today and I like it. I think it's a beautiful eyeshadow palette. What I will say is that Huda does tend to get into a pattern of the same sort of colour stories in her eyeshadow palettes. I think if you have her New Nudes palette, or you have the one, what was the one called with like the really filthy name? What was that one called? I feel like if you have the Naughty Nude palette, I feel like if you have the New Nudes palette, if you have the Rose Quartz eyeshadow palette, I think if you have a few of her Obsessions palette, you've definitely got this colour story from the brand. It's essentially a couple of golds and a lot of neutral shadows. These here are both eyeliners. I know we've got eyeliners, so there's really nothing in here that you don't already have, even from Huda herself. It's a very nice, essentially neutral eyeshadow palette. Again, if you've got Bieber, if you've got any of Huda's previous palettes, you've certainly got shadows that will do and give you this look that you don't need another one for sure. It's a very expensive eyeshadow palette. It is certainly one you'll be able to get for far cheaper if you give it a month or two. You know, it really will be reduced by at least 20% or more over the coming months. As my understanding is, again, it's a permanent eyeshadow palette. No need to rush out and buy it just because it's new and everybody is raving and using it and you feel left out and you feel like, oh, I really have to have that eyeshadow palette everyone's talking about, because in a few weeks time everybody will be talking about a new one. Will probably be 5 eyeshadow palettes down the road in a few weeks time. I would definitely advise a cooling off period with this one because I think it's beautiful, and if you're drawn to neutrals, it is easy to go, oh, it's such a beautiful neutral eyeshadow palette, and it is, but you do have them. You already have those. So give yourself a cooling off period. It's not going to sell out. It seems it's a permanent eyeshadow palette. Give it a good few weeks. If you're still thinking about it and still wanting it, wait for a sale. Wait until, again, you've got the money in the bank spare, because this is not going to go anywhere. It's not going to sell out overnight. And I think that during the few days or week even of a cooling off period, you'll probably forget about it and actually think, I don't really need that. That's a really good strategy. I always give myself a cooling off period. If I'm still thinking about something in a week's time, then maybe it might be worth picking up. If I've forgotten about it, something else more exciting has come along, I've saved myself some money. Winner. Next up, let's talk about the Chanel highlights. These are, again, Very beautiful, gorgeous, very eye-catching with that stunning picture embossing on the product. They're Chanel, but at the end of the day, these are highlighters. They're Chanel highlighters. They're bound to be soft, natural, glowy, lit from within highlighters, typical of the Chanel brand. These are ginormous and therefore come with a gigantic Chanel price tag attached. And really what we're paying for is the picture, the embossing on this, because otherwise it's just a highlighter. It's just a highlighter that's costing an insane amount of money that you're never going to even make a dent in this highlighter, and you've got 48 other highlighters in your drawer. You've got Charlotte Tilbury highlighters, you've got Natasha Denona highlighters, you've got a million from Pat McGrath, you've got them in palettes from previous holiday collections. Is this going to highlight you more than any of those? Is my question. Or do you literally just want it because it's got the bottle embossing on there? That's my question. If that wasn't there, would you still want it? I think a lot of Chanel releases, I mean, even the tweed eyeshadow palettes that we all thought were going to sell out in 5 seconds flat are still loitering about on the website today. So it wouldn't surprise me if these also do the same thing, because a lot of us are realizing, wait, I already have highlights. I even have Chanel highlights, and beautiful as they are, do I want to throw another £80 at one? I ask you. Next up, let's talk about these Westman Atelier Complexion drops. Now, I was this close to buying these because I saw one TikTok of someone who really loved it and made it look gorgeous. I will say she was like 16 years old with stunning, perfect skin. So I do feel like she could have like rubbed hand sanitizer over her face and she would have looked just as stunning as she did with these, but who's to say? What I will also say is that the reviews I've seen of people around my age with like a normal face have been very questionable, and these are very, very expensive, and they are complex. This isn't even like a super full coverage amazing foundation. This is like a light sheer like tinted moisturizer type of situation, and with the audacity to charge a huge amount of money. And I've seen it look horrendous on some people. It definitely is not going to work for everybody. So it could be a very expensive mistake. I beg of you to go and try a sample of this before you splash out all your money on it, because I've definitely seen more bad reviews than I've seen good. That's what I'll say. I was initially tempted by these. I watched a few reviews. I beg of you to do the same thing, not just see one TikTok of someone who's half your age and go, oh, it's going to make me a goddess. It probably isn't. It's probably going to be very similar to what you already own. And if it is, on the off chance this is going to be the foundation that's going to make you look like a Victoria's Secret model, then why not get a sample first and try it out? Go in store, get someone to pop it on your face, maybe get a sample with an order if that's an option, and see if the magic you're expecting becomes a reality. Because I would say it's unlikely. I think most people are either going to say, it's fine, or, oh my goodness, it looks frightening. And, you know, Halloween will be quickly gone. And then when else will you wear it, is my question. Next up, let's talk about this Patrick Ta blush palette. Again, it's a load of blush in a palette. It's very appealing. It's very aesthetically pleasing. It's very eye-catching. I don't know about you, I'm a blush person. Okay, put a load of them in one place, I'm in. Okay, that's how easily pleased I am. I don't know about you. What I will say, if you bought the first one, what are you doing? You already have this. It's just ever so slightly different colours. Ever so slightly. It's basically the same one you already have. So put it back. Take it out of your cart. What are you thinking? If you have like a few blush duos, the cream powder blush duos that feature in these palettes, if you have a few of those from Patrick Ta, you've definitely already got these. Again, what are you doing? What's happening here? We've let things go. We've lost control. If you have nothing from Patrick Ta by the way of these blush duos, I wonder why you suddenly want this big palette full of them if you didn't want the single ones before. Is it again the appeal, the extra appeal of the face or blush palette that's getting you, that's sucking you in? Is it that? Because this is much, much more expensive than buying one. Will you use every colour in here? Do you even like creams? If you like creams, do you like powders? Because either way, if you're a cream person or a powder person, you're not using half of what's in here because it's half cream, half powder. you know? So yeah, buy a single. If you already have them, if you already have last year's palette, buy nothing, okay? You've already got this. Stop it. Okay, and last, but by no means least, probably the most challenging product for a lot of people to avoid buying this whole holiday season. It's the Hourglass Holiday collection. I have Tiger. I also have Elephant. Let me tell you straight away, I have not, elephant has not been near my face. I mean, I've never had an elephant particularly near my face. But the elephant face palette I have not used literally since like the review and maybe one other time, because I just way prefer the Tiger palette. I think most people will prefer like one of the palettes over the other. So definitely don't get more than one is what I'm saying. If you have to buy one, definitely don't buy two. Okay, we're definitely limiting ourselves to one because you'll only use one. They're essentially the same thing. Okay, so definitely don't buy more than one. That's number one, I beg of you. This is definitely my favourite one. I get a lot of use out of this one. What I will say, I'm not going to lie to you again, it's a beautiful palette. I really like it. If you watch my review, you'll know I love this. However, a few things to mention to help you if you are trying to not purchase this. One, if you have like previous years, if you have previous palettes from previous Hourglass holiday collections, how different ultimately is this one, or is any of the new palettes for this year? The real difference is essentially the packaging has an animal on it. It's the animals again. We've spoken about this before. Tigers and lions and bears sucking us in because we love animals. We love to see it. We love a good animal on the packaging, and brands know it. They know we love, put a cute, beautiful animal on a piece of makeup. We're much more likely to buy it, but we're not that. We've cottoned on to this. Okay, we're not that stupid. We know what you're doing. We know you know we love tigers, so you've put tigers on here to make us buy it. Okay, so don't even look at the packaging. We're just going to look at the inside. It's a couple of blushes, a highlight and a bronzer from Hourglass. If you've ever bought one of these palettes before in your life, I'm going to hold it this way so you don't even have to look at the tiger in the eye. If you've ever bought one of these palettes in your life, you've essentially got this already. Are the blushes a slightly different colour? Yes. On the face, if you put, you know, last year's holiday palette on this side and this year's on this side, would anyone know the difference? That's question number one. I would also say, if these were going to be super limited edition and hard to get hold of, as Hourglass would lead you to believe, they would have sold out by now. They would have sold out already, and they have not. They're everywhere still. So what I'm saying is they're going to be restocking these. Not that they're necessarily going to be permanent, but last year's hung around for literally a year. I don't think these are going out of stock anytime soon. As we've already said, they're available on Space NK, on Sephora, places that you'll be able to get them for 20, 30% off at some point, and they will get vastly reduced as we go past holiday, even outside of sales. So even if you really desperately still want this in a few months' time, I think you'll be able to get it probably for like 30% off. If you know someone who wants to splash out on a nice expensive makeup gift for you, by all means let them. Or vouchers. I love a good voucher at Christmas. That's going to get you more money off, save up your points. You can get these for like half price just by doing some vouchers, some discounts, some extra points that you've saved up. So I definitely don't think anyone needs to panic by these, to stress about it. Certainly don't need to pay full price for it. If you have previous Hourglass holiday palettes, you essentially have what this does already. There's on the face, is it really, who's going to know that it's not this year's? I don't know if I would. So there you have it. Hopefully that has you well and truly talked out of all these incredibly tempting makeup products. Okay. It's been a tough month. It's been a very tough month. It may still get tougher, but we've got this. We are strong. We are wise. We have our eyes wide open. We have our pincers out. We're ready for whatever they're going to throw at us. We don't need any of it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'd love to see you in the next one. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye, 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 bye.